This video is important for all teachers, but first, let's face it, everybody has their own unique talents. Some people are better as politicians, as dentists, or as teachers. If you are really passionate about teaching and you really want to continue doing this job, then you are already lucky because you are a good person in a good place. This video will be about probably the most important people in our job, students. My name is Łukasz and this is the English Residence. This video is about tips and tricks for teachers, so I would like to invite you to the gardens of the English Residence. I have always been saying that I love my students and I am grateful for them, for every single person that I had an honor to work with. I am so grateful. Without my students, I would be unemployed. This video is for all teachers to respect their students and to appreciate them. Let's have a look at things that I learned throughout my career. Number one. Your student is your boss. Before you even enter your class, before you even meet your students for the first time, you need to know that every single one of them has their own unique abilities and their own unique life experiences. Whether you work with a 6-year-old child or a 60-year-old lady, everybody has their own life experiences. This means that they will respond to you as a teacher, to your jokes, to the book, to the materials being taught completely differently. And they have the right to do whatever they want and to feel whatever they want. Of course, I don't mean that students should misbehave in the classroom. No, mutual respect is fundamental. But what I mean is that, well, if they don't want to learn, they have the right to do so. Let me explain. Once I had a class of 16 students, adults. Everything was fine, but suddenly, out of the blue, almost half of them resigned without a word. So I was quite surprised because I thought that everything was fine. My director of studies, a lovely lady, she told me that my students who resigned, they felt like we didn't do a lot from the book. We didn't have many opportunities to have a conversation, and I didn't explain grammar properly. But on the other hand, the second half of students that actually decided to stay, they told me that they felt completely different. They felt like we had a lot of opportunities to talk, that I explained everything wonderfully, and that, well, the book is done very well. So what happened really? Well, as I mentioned before, every student has the right to do whatever they want and to feel whatever they want. Of course, with respect to the teacher and to each others. Maybe we couldn't understand each other, or maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I should have conducted a feedback or, I don't know, a class talk during which we could talk it over. Maybe it is my fault. Maybe I didn't do something that I should have done. But anyway, they have the right to resign. They have the right to do whatever they want. Whatever the reason was, they had the right to resign because student is your boss. Without students, your class would be empty, and without students, you wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't have anything to do, actually. A classroom is like a ship. You, as a teacher, you are the captain. You lead the way, but students are extremely important as well, because without students, you wouldn't lead the ship as a captain by yourself, alone. No, you need help. And they decide whether they want to come along with you or not. Point number 2, every student has their own life experiences. Once I had a student on my private English class, and she was a lovely young lady, but there was one thing: she hated English, which I found surprising because she passed every test from other subjects with flying colors. So why English? What happened that she hated this subject so much? I remember that she was so negative about my lessons. No, not about my lessons, about English, that she refused to talk with me. Like, completely. So, of course, you as a teacher, you cannot simply ignore the fact and continue with your materials. No. So I stopped the lesson and decided to ask her, to talk with her, but she refused. Well, so I changed the strategy and I decided to play a game with her. It was a silent game. I asked a question and she just either shook her head or nodded. Do you like English? She shook her head. Do you like your school? She nodded. Do you think I'm a bad teacher? She shook her head, fortunately. Do you like me? She nodded. Do you like your English teacher at school? She shook her head. Okay. Did he or she do anything bad to you? She nodded. Is this why you don't like English? She nodded. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't professional enough, or I wasn't qualified enough, or I was just, I don't know, maybe I didn't have qualifications, but I really tried, really tried to help her, but I felt that it's parents with whom, of course, I've been talking about the situation, parents paid me, and we actually didn't do anything with English, and I felt bad about myself of being paid by teaching English and not teaching English whatsoever. I really wanted to help her, but I don't know. I don't remember what happened really, but eventually we stopped having lessons. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe if I continued having lessons with her, maybe I would, like revive this English within her. Maybe I would help her love the English again, the English language again. And I do hope that now this little girl, she found a better teacher and that she is a happy English speaking person now. My point is that you as a teacher, you have to be not only a teacher but a guide, a friend, someone who understands, someone who wants to listen to the students, someone who wants to help them. If there's a student who doesn't like your lessons, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are lazy or without the talent. No, I don't agree with that. For me, every student has their own unique talents, and every student can change the world for a better place. Maybe I am naive, but this is something that I believe in. We as teachers, and me, we have to make sure that we understand our students' life experiences. If that student is watching this video right now, then I wish that you are a happy English-speaking person. And of course, if you, my guests of the English residents, if you have similar experiences, please share them in the comment section down below. Point number 3, getting to know your students' names. In order to become friends with your students and to guide them, well, you need to know their names. At the beginning of your lesson, your very first lesson with a new group, ask students to write their names on a separate sheet of paper and put them in front of them, okay? It will be easy for you to memorize their names. But also be creative and ask them to not only write their names, but also titles, maybe royal titles like Anne the Brave, or maybe Michael from the cloudy hills, or maybe Josh the Explorer. Be creative. Students love creativity, and of course, every student is creative. Point number 4, getting to know your students' interests. At the beginning of my lesson, I always ask my students how their week was. And of course, pay attention to what your students say. Every one of them is unique. Every one of them has their own interests, hobbies, passions. Try to learn something about them. In order to know your students' interests, you can play a game called Two Truths and a Lie. Everyone writes 3 sentences about themselves, but 1 sentence is false. Then, a student reads those sentences, and the rest of the class tries to decide which sentence is false. I'll do it with my example. 1. I have written 7 novels and 1 poetry book. 2. I have appeared in a TV program, Dancing Hip Hop. 3. I speak fluent Japanese. Well, indeed, it is number 3. So I don't speak fluent Japanese, but I can say 1 sentence in Japanese. I love this language, really, but I love anime as well. So a lot of animes, at the end of the episode, they have this phrase. And this phrase was repeated so many times that I memorized the phrase. So it goes like this. In advance, I am sorry for my Japanese accent, but I love Japanese. So, グランドスポンサー提供でお送りします。And actually, this means the sponsor of the program is. Okay, point number 5. If problems occur. I had a situation in which my students, individual classes, and my students came to my class, and as soon as her parents left, she started crying. And of course, you should never ignore that situation. Some of the students won't tell you just like that what happened. So you have to respect that, and if they don't want to talk, okay. Of course, every single situation like that needs to be consulted with parents of a child. And I stopped the lesson immediately, and she didn't want to talk with me about the thing, so I decided to play a game with her. So basically, there's a game. You stand up from your seat and you go to the middle of your class, and you face your student. You ask a question. If a question is a yes, you take a step forward. If an answer is no, then you take a step back. And basically what I found out was that my student was very stressed out about her school, homework, tests, short tests, her marks, everything. And she couldn't cope with that anymore. And she burst out crying. I had to stop the lesson and try to solve the problem. So she explained everything to me, that she couldn't cope with her homework, with the amount of tests and stuff. And well, as of course it was not as dangerous problem, we decided not to mention this situation to her parents, because I respected my student's decision. Okay, she just needed someone to talk with. She just needed someone a person who wanted to listen to her. If your student comes to you with like a problem which is not severe, and he or she decides to keep it quiet, keep it on the down low, then you should respect the decision. And if that student doesn't want to talk about it with her parents, okay, maybe it's just a homework, maybe it's just a test, whatever. Of course, if there is something dangerous, something big, well, you have to talk with parents, and if not, with the students, and if not, then with psychologists, with other teachers, with someone who can help. It is really important, okay? You should not leave a student with his or her own problems. Okay, everybody needs some help sometimes. And for example, if there is a bully in your class, well, I was bullied at school, and it was, well, not fancy, okay? But now, as I grew up, I understood that, you know, a person who bullies may also be a victim of their parents' actions. Maybe something bad happens in a bully's house, and we don't know. People are really so quick to judge, and me too. Sometimes I'm very quick to judge, and it is true. But we should keep in mind. We should really remember the fact that people are not mechanical. People are not machines. People are full of emotions, full of prejudices, full of stereotypes. And if something like this happens, if there is a bully in your class, you should understand both sides. And you should never ignore, okay? I've seen many memes on the internet where there is a bully in a class and this teacher, and the teacher just basically pays no attention. Whereas there is just one quiet boy who gets all the blame. If you maybe not see, you can feel it. If you feel something is wrong, you should try to find out what is wrong. You should find who is an aggressor and who is a victim, and you should help both of them. Remember, you are the captain of the ship. Everything has to work together. Everything and everyone. So back then, with my student that started crying on my lesson, I could help her by just listening to her. And I hope, and I think it did help. And I gave her some pieces of advice, like, for example, well, I am a teacher, and I know that the thing that I'm going to say right now is a little bit unofficial. I told her that marks aren't that important, that homework isn't that important. You should never sacrifice your health, your peace for just a good mark or homework. You should never mind a teacher that threatens you or scares you or says that, well, if you don't bring homework, well, you will get an F. Just don't pay attention, because maybe now I am referring to my students. As I mentioned, we are all people with our own unique life experiences, and maybe teachers as well, they had a bad morning. Maybe teachers, they don't have a person to talk to. Okay, so if there's a thing that you can take from this video, don't judge the others so quickly, please. This is something that I'm working on, really. But it's so hard. But at least, as long as you keep that in mind, you will make this world a little bit better. Now, I mentioned homework, so point number 6, homework or not homework, that is the question. My mom and grandma, they were both very surprised when I told them that I don't demand anything from my students, basically. I don't give them homework, I don't give them obligatory tests, I don't ask them questions out of the blue for marks. Basically, you cannot fail a test in my lesson because there are no Fs. You cannot fail a test. My grandma and my mom, they both said that students will use the situation. They will not learn, or maybe they won't respect me as a teacher. But what I found was something completely different, like a paradox. I greet all of my groups. Hi, I love you all. But I remember that what I found was particularly interesting, because even if I allowed my students to play mobile games on their phones during my lesson, or just watch memes all the time, I allowed them because they have the right to do so. They are free people. Basically, what I found was that they were focused on my lesson. They really were interested in what I was saying. Furthermore, they wanted to do the homework. They wanted to learn for the test, and they didn't cheat because they knew that they cannot fail. They knew, and what is even better, they knew that they can cheat on my lesson because I'll allow it. So what they did, they felt like, what is the point of preparing a cheat if you still can do this? So basically what my students did was to actually learn for the test. I don't know if it works for all students, but with groups that I have been working with, well, it worked. And I mentioned that I don't want to create stressful situations. Why? Well, imagine this. There's a student named Dennis. He woke up at 6 a.m. Dennis forgot his homework, so he had to skip a breakfast in order to prepare homework that he hadn't done before. At the bus stop, a bully insulted our Dennis. In the classroom at school, there was a teacher who asked our Dennis a question. Dennis didn't know because maybe he was too stressed, and he got an F. Dennis goes back home after 8 hours of hard work, and he has to eat his dinner very quickly in order to catch the train to make it on my private lessons. Finally, he barely makes it, being late 10 minutes. How can I add more stress to Dennis? How can I give him more stress? I couldn't. So what I tell my students is that there are no obligatory tests, no obligatory homework. There will be no stressful situations, and with that liberty, with that freedom, they will learn better, they will learn with pleasure, and maybe they will start loving English. And of course, not everybody has to know English. Maybe there are some students that just don't want to learn English. It is okay, but still I don't want to force them. Just imagine a teacher from your school, okay? Just imagine. Imagine that you are back in your school and you are in a class with a teacher that stressed you out, that threatened you. Just imagine that teacher, and now answer my question. Did you really love his or her classes? Did you really love the subject that was taught? I just couldn't create stress to my students. I don't know. When I was a student, I was so lucky that I had teachers who were just friends, and they made my life better, and I am so very grateful for them, really. My point is, understand your students. Just trust them. And if there is someone who doesn't want to learn your subject, it is okay. They have the right. And by forcing them, you may only scare them away. The point of this video is be understanding, be caring. Try to put yourself in your students' shoes. If this is difficult, then at least try to see your younger self in your student. Maybe the next time when you feel this urge to give your student an F, give him a second chance. Maybe try to understand what he's going through. Maybe just forgive him. If you, for example, force your students, if you don't like your students, if you started to hate your students will repay, probably. So the only thing to break this vicious circle of hatred and just bad energy is to forgive, to understand, to love. It is not easy. it is touching when I think about so many students whose wings were cut. I don't blame teachers, because teachers, maybe they didn't know. They do the best they can. If they could do something better, they would do it better. They did something wrong, but still it is the best that they could do. Maybe they couldn't do it better. Maybe they didn't know how to do something better. Forgive your students and forgive yourself. Become a better teacher for you students, because they really are. They really are very important in your class, really. Oh my god. I'm not going to cry, but I really love my work, and I would like to say thank you to all my students, for all of you who are watching this video right now. I wish you every happiness. And am I supposed to do the wink? This video is too serious, I think. I'll do the wink, maybe. I will. So, everybody, thank you for watching, and as always, subscribe.